So I made a short film. If you want to watch it, it's the only other video up on my channel right now. So I suggest you watch it because this video is just going to be going over the making of it and my process. So you should probably just watch it. It's only 2 minutes, so it won't take too long. I'm just going to be breaking everything down in this one, so might as well see the final product before watching this. Also, I just want to point out that in the title, I wrote short films, not film. The spelling errors will never end for me. Anyway, this is the first short film I've ever made, so I kind of just wanted to talk about it because I think it's a pretty cool accomplishment. Now, to be clear, the short film was done in a bit of a speed run fashion because it was the final for my animation class, so every week we had a new step of the process that had to be finished on top of my normal schoolwork and many other setbacks. But in total, I had about 4 weeks to work on it, which ended up being more like 3 weeks due to the sheer amount of technical setbacks and getting sick. But I'll talk about that later. This was a class assignment, but we were given a lot of free range and basically told to just make an animation. And that sounds simple enough, but I have an entire backlog of stories. I'm an idea person. It's what I do. Storytelling is just part of my existence. So picking one was kind of difficult to do. That being said, I've had the idea for this film for a while now. Originally, I wrote it back when I was camping with my family because I'm a workaholic and I couldn't not come up with something while I was in the woods. The gist of the story is this character, Joseph, which, as a side note, I never mentioned his name anywhere in the film, but he does actually have a name. I did name him. But I just figured I would add that here because there's nowhere else where I would have added it. So I'm going to read the original text so I can compare it to what I ended up actually doing for the final cut. I only lightly referenced my notes when I was creating the actual short film, so most of the things I storyboarded were actually from memory and not really from reference. Here's the original story as written from my iPhone notes. There's a tent in the middle of the woods. A little boy pops out of the tent all energetic. He starts running off into the woods, jumping into a huge pile of leaves. He throws them in the air, spinning as he does, so he gets a little older. Wow, that grammar. A wolf howls and he hears it. He starts running through the woods with the sound of the chain. He starts running off through the woods, and the sound of the wolves change him. He ends on top of a rock, not a cliff, just a rock, and howls with the wolf over him on an actual cliff. In the middle of his howl, he gets yanked off the rock and put in a school desk. Walls block out the woods. He gets grumpy and bored. He tries to escape a few times and gets scolded. He starts drawing and writing stories about adventure and starts getting so invested in his work. Now, as an adult, he doesn't even try to go out anymore. He got a job at a big office in the city and is very successful. As he's walking out, he sees a picture of him younger howling at the moon. He stares at it for a while, tilting his head. He drives out to the woods. He steps out, taking a deep breath in. Smiling, he jumps out, cheering / hollering, running off into the woods. The end. And that's it. There are a few things that didn't make it into the final cut. I did actually make it shorter. This is the shortest idea out of all the ones that I had written. The assignment itself wasn't supposed to be longer than like 30 seconds, and mine ended up being almost 2 minutes. So I was already really tight on time. So originally the idea was to show a longer term connection that Joseph had with nature, but I think it still worked out in the final, even though I didn't get to do it as long as I would have liked it. I did stay true to the main plot of the film. I really relate to Joseph because as a kid, I was a pretty wild child. I would be that one kid that always had grass stains on their pants and like dirt in their hair. My mom hated me for that. Sorry, Mom. But I really connected with Joseph in that way, especially since I'm a workaholic now and it's very rare that I ever get to go out and just have a good time. I mean, like I mentioned, I literally wrote this while I was on vacation with my family because I needed to work on something while I was on my break. I forgot about the photo older Joseph looks at and instead just made one up on the spot while I was boarding. If I had more time, I would have liked to have made it a little bit longer and actually given myself a little bit more time to plan it out so it wasn't as rushed, because I feel like it was a little bit rushed, but I got it done in the time frame I was given. So overall, I think I did pretty good. Now it was time to design our characters and start boarding out what we were gonna do. I had some idea of what I wanted the main character to look like. As a kid, I wanted them to have like messy, unkempt hair and to be a little bit scruffy, so that's how I got Joseph. So I started off with his just basic sketch of just what I generally wanted him to look like, and then I went in for a little bit more exploration on facial expressions and some of the faces that I knew I would want him to have, like the howl and the face that he makes when he gets yanked. But I did spend some time just exploring what I wanted those expressions to look like and pushing what I wanted him to look like and getting a better idea of him as a kid. I really wish I had done this for older Joseph as well, because I actually never designed what older Joseph would look like. I just kind of winged it when I was doing the boards. So I kind of wish I hadn't done that and I had actually spent the time to design what he looked like, so that way I could have a solid reference instead of just pulling from thin air. After that was a board. I did the boards in this animating program called TV Paint, and for the most part, it was pretty chill. I had a good time with it. It was my first time ever using TV Paint. I had a lot of issues downloading the program, but I don't think that was the fault of the actual software itself, but more just me being really bad with tech and I didn't really know what I was doing. Because one day it just worked, so I don't think it was really something on their end. Up until that point, I had done all of my animating in Photoshop because that was the program that I know best, and like I mentioned before, I'm terrible with tech, so trying new things isn't really my forte. But the boards were super easy to do in TV Paint. It all went pretty well. I actually enjoyed it because I could time it better than I could in Photoshop, where I have to like export it. So I liked it better. Other than having the attention span of a toddler and getting distracted every 5 seconds without having 4 different audios playing at once just to focus, it went smoothly. And I got everything done in the first week. Little did I know that that was the calm before the storm, because, oh boy, was I not prepared for what came next. At first, I had started in TV Paint because I wanted to start transitioning to an actual animating program, but TV Paint just rejected me and broke several times. It wasn't even a clean break either. No, it teased me. It reeled me back in by making me believe that it was going to change, only to break on me again and again, and I believed it every time. Even now, I'm not really sure what happened. It just would not let me draw, or it would just only let me draw with my mouse, and I was not about to do my entire project with just my mouse. So eventually, I had to call it, and I switched back to Photoshop, much to mine and my teacher's disappointment. He had really wanted me to use a different program, and even though I did try, it was just not in the cards. We even stayed after class to try to figure out what the problem was, but we just couldn't. And since I'm a broke college student, I wasn't about to pay for another program because I had already spent so much on this one. So I just accepted defeat and dragged myself back to Photoshop. I wish I could say that that was the only setback, but no. See, lining week happened to be during our winter break as well, which would have been fine. You would think that because I had the extra time, I didn't have classes, I could really just focus on it, you think it wouldn't be a problem. But that was not the case, because I had to go and get sick. And since I'd been in lockdown for almost 2 years and had little to no contact with anyone for almost 2 years, I had not been sick for 2 years. So when the common cold came knocking on my door, it was not a sweet, pleasant, let me borrow some sugar, dear neighbor. No, 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 no. That shit came busting in like a SWAT team, and I was very much out of commission for almost over half of the week. But I did manage to get all the lining done by the time I needed to, so at least I was able to do that. kudos to past me for sticking it in there, because that was hell. Just a word of advice, do not do all-nighters when you're sick. Just don't do it. All-nighters can already make you pretty loopy the next day, but add being sick on top of that, it's just a recipe for disaster. But I did it for the sake of art and my grade. I actually really love editing sound and sound effects into things, so I was pretty excited about this. I actually had started doing a little bit of the sound during the lining process because it gave me something to work on while I was resting my hand. Even though I love sound, finding sound is a completely different story, especially when it came to music. I knew I was going to want to share this online, so I didn't want to have any copyright songs, so I did my best with what I could find on YouTube and Zapsplat to kind of piece together like a Frankenstein music soundtrack. So I just did the best I could with what I had. It does suck that I never found a sound for Joseph's howl. It was just the wolf howl. I really would have loved to have that sound for him. The only video I could find was some mom recording her 3-year-old son, and I didn't feel comfortable taking that audio, so I just left it at that and just did my best with what I could. The color was probably the hardest part of this project. Since I was so rushed with the timing of the film, I did not pay any attention to how the lighting was going to work, nor did I plan any of the colors. I had some idea with what I wanted Joseph's colors to look like just because I had spent a little bit more time with him the first week, but nothing else. Like for the tent, I literally just asked my friends over Discord at like 11 what a color of the tent would be, and I just picked the first color that was called out. I really wish I had more time to render the scenery as well. I really like doing forest scenes. They're some of my favorite scenes to do, but I just did not have the time, so everything looks really flat, but I really wish I would have shaded, or at the very least put a little bit more detail back when I was lining it, but again, I just didn't have the time. There is actually a mistake in one of the frames where the color of the background is wrong. Because I was in such a time crunch, I was literally just paint bucket tooling every section of the background, and I'm actually surprised that there was only one mistake there. I had watched it 3 or 4 times before turning it in just to make sure that everything was good, but of course, when we were showing it to the rest of the class, that's when I realized that there was a mistake. Overall, I'm still pretty proud of it. There were a lot of things that I would like to fix and expand on, of course, but I didn't have the time, so I just did the best I could. And I'm honestly satisfied with that. Even if the inner perfectionist in me is trying to pick this project to pieces, I can honestly say I gave it my best shot. And, you know, just because it's not perfect doesn't mean that it isn't awesome. I hope that one day I can look back at this project and cringe with pride. Thank you for watching and listening to me explain. This is more of like a rant, I suppose. This project was full of ups and downs and late nights filled with Coca-Colas and coffees. So I just felt the need to talk about it more, especially since this is the first time I've ever finished like a final film. It's pretty important to me and it feels like a pretty big accomplishment. And now that I've entered the realm of YouTube, I'm going to start making some more videos, so subscribe to keep up with that. I'm recording this in my parents' closet. I'm gonna have to see how that works out. There's gonna be a lot of editing in this. I might keep some in just for the bloopers. Hello.
Oh,
I'm in your closet.
are you in class?
No. I'm recording. You want to come in? I can step out for a second. Okay. Sorry. Thank you so much for watching, and till the next one. Bye.